So, all right, folks, thank you for tuning in. Definitely appreciate you coming to spend some time with me and a special guest that I have today, good friend of mine. And if you would like to follow what I'm doing on my written blog for movie reviews and such, the link for that is going to be below. And you can check out any other views on the channel. So feel free to like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But today, like I said, I do have my friend Eric Huffman on with
Hey,
me here. So we're going to be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, so the Snyder cut of Justice League. So I'm
well
gonna
said.
let him introduce himself, and then we can dive into it.
What up, though, people? My name is Eric Huffman. Most people who know me call me Huff, and I love to talk movies, either in the written form or via video. I guess I'll have to plug myself near the end of this thing, but I will just start by saying, Chris, it's an honor. Glad to be on here with you. I cannot believe that this is happening. I can't believe we exist in this timeline. The Snyder Cut actually exists, and they
Yeah,
released it.
yeah, and it is definitely like you're saying. This is definitely surprising. Um, and yeah, what a time to be alive, indeed. I was gonna say here, it's for those who do not know. So Justice League originally came out back in 2017.
Mhm.
Um, and the film's original director, so Zack Snyder, who directed Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, had to exit the project due to some unfortunate personal circumstances. And the brain trust at Warner and DC decided to bring in Joss Whedon, who at that point, I mean, it had made the only other like big superhero team up movie that we had gotten. So they figured, bring him in, do some reshoots, finish the picture up. And what got released was kind of this Frankenstein of a movie that was obviously kind of made by two different creative visionaries. Um, I actually didn't think it was too bad. It's not good either. But it was. I thought it was kind of it was watchable. But yeah, but it obviously wasn't a great movie. Didn't do well at the box office for them, and kind of started DC to hitting the reset button on a lot of stuff. So we go to what last year, and it seemed like well, release the Snyder Cut had been a hashtag that had been going
For
on for a while.
years.
Yeah, but last year was when it finally like started materializing, and it's probably no coincidence that the uh, kind of global pandemic and everything that we had to deal with played a part in it, and with Warner launching HBO Max, they figured it would be a good way to bump up, subscribers. So they gave Zach 70 additional $1 million to complete the movie, and it just got released last week on HBO Max.
Mhm.
4 hours of glorious superhero endeavors, and yeah. So what are your initial thoughts on the Snyder Cut?
So I want to go back a little bit into your story about how we got to where we are. First, I want to say this. Rest in peace to Autumn Snyder. I feel
Yes.
like in the midst of everyone talking about this film and how they feel about it, that's the part that I think doesn't get said enough. Rest in
Mhm.
peace to Autumn Snyder. I'm very happy that Zach and Deborah got to sort of have this bit of catharsis.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, at the end of the day, when Zack Snyder stepped away in 2017, a lot of people only heard the story that there had been a family tragedy, and then we later found out that his daughter committed suicide. And coming off of Batman versus Superman, many of us in the film fan nerd community were not exactly the most embracing of Zack Snyder.
Mhm.
But it was this humanizing moment, at least for a little bit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
say what you will about Zack Snyder's filmmaking choices, he is absolutely one of us. So I'm glad that he got to have this bit of release. Him and Deborah Snyder. I mean, she produces all his films with him. So I just want to start with that part.
Yes.
Second thing that I want to say, and this will not be a surprise to you, Chris, but I'm sure your viewers might find it interesting. I was given 45 minutes head notice about the Snyder Cut before that announcement dropped. A friend of mine who works at HBO Max sent me the link to the live stream. He told me what time to check in because he knew exactly when Zack Snyder was going to make it. And he said, look, this is the biggest thing that might ever happen. He said, this is the biggest thing that might ever happen for me if I continue to work under Warner Brothers. I'm giving you the heads up. If you check in at this time, you'll probably be there right before he sort of gives the big announcement. So shout out to my friend at HBO Max. I appreciated that greatly. He also came through and I got an early look at the Snyder Cut. So that was a lot of fun as well. Now, on to my thoughts of am I doing Snyder Cut? Am I doing Justice League?
Yes. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So for shorthand, I'm gonna be referring to the 2017 Justice League as Justice League, just to because I don't want to have to keep saying Justice League 2017 and Zack Snyder's Justice League. So it will be Justice League for Zack Snyder's and Justice League for Justice. But yeah, first, what did you think of Justice League?
I was okay with Justice League when I went on opening night. And what I said at the time and what I sort of, I mean, this is not anything that's really changed. My criticisms have added up immensely, but I thought that coming off of what happened with Batman versus Superman, I thought that Justice League, the theatrical cut of Justice League, I thought that they addressed at least 2 or 3 major areas of concern. One, it wasn't a bloated film. I mean, almost to a fault, it was not a bloated film. And 2, it felt like the person behind the camera really admired the source material that was being adapted. I mean, you know, I know many of us are not too fond of the way that the Flash was portrayed, especially in that theatrical cut. But I thought that they did some things that signaled to me, oh, okay, like this is much more reminiscent of why I was a fan of these characters to begin with. And I think that, you know, I mean, listen, what Joss Whedon had to do in that film was not a small task. I mean, for people who know about how film productions work, Joss Whedon was given the keys to a massive film with a cast that was all over the world at a certain point, and he had to find a way to bring it together and finish the film. Now, to what degree he succeeded is debatable.
It's debatable, yeah.
But I thought that, you know, he was doing a thankless job. And I think that the fact that he was able to get a writing credit out of it really showed. I mean, he really put he really got to work on it or tried to. So, you know, but in retrospect, I will say it's a really messy film. It's a film that is littered with really out of place fan service, really odd aesthetic choices, some I mean, just we'll call it like it is, some really piss poor CGI work, especially as it relates to Superman,
Henry Cavill's
Mustache Gate.
But face.
But overall, it felt so light and fluffy. I mean, you know, like it really, I mean, it wasn't until I rewatched Justice League that I started to remember, oh, right, all of these things happen in this film. So
like so that's one of the things that you know, some people may or may not be surprised at, that structurally the 2 movies are virtually the same. It's just that, you know, to get the movie to down to a 2 hour runtime,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that's cut. So in Zack's version in Justice League, it's there's a lot of the same scenes that are there, and they're just extended, or
Yeah.
there's different levels of exposition that's added. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that,
that was a little bit surprising to me.
yeah. And that's important that you mentioned the runtime. So for those who may not know, the former head of Warner Brothers, Kevin Sujihara, did not want to budge on the release date of Justice League to allot for Zack Snyder potentially coming back to the project. And
Mm-hmm.
he also had a strict mandate that the runtime of the film had to be 2 hours. And for those who may not know, a film's runtime does also include its closing credits. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot gets made about film runtimes, and I think that sometimes they're completely overblown. But you can
Mm-hmm.
really feel how it hampers the way that the story is
Yeah,
told in the theatrical cut.
yeah, yeah. So with that being said, what did you think of Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice
Of the
League?
Snyder cut,
Yeah.
I will say this: I liked it. I mean, it's if you've been following Zack Snyder's career up to this point, even before he was doing DC films, he has a very signature style,
Mm-hmm.
and for some people, that alone is going to take them out of this movie. But if you're able
Yeah.
to get on board with it, if you're able to look past his creative liberties with some of these characters,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, man. I was entertained. I was thrilled in moments. I mean, and we'll probably dig into that as we go on.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I was shocked that a filmmaker who is often criticized for his weaknesses of maintaining a narrative and his weaknesses of developing character, I
Mm-hmm.
was just sort of blown away at the fact that one, there are enough fully fleshed out character arcs in this film, and two, not only does the narrative sort of really move and it has some depth to it, and it's got good pacing for the most part, but like
Mm-hmm.
Zack Snyder's handle on how this one film shapes the rest of the cinematic universe, I was
Mm-hmm.
blown away. I was like, wow, Zack
Yeah.
really pulled this off. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
really do get a feel that regardless of where a Justice League Part 2 might have gone, you really do get to feel that, wow, this can really spin off into the Aquaman solo film. Or,
Mm-hmm.
if, we know
Minus
now that the Wonder Woman
Mira's
sequel was
British
set
accent.
before then, but like, if they had done a Wonder Woman 2 set right after Justice League, like, all of those breadcrumbs are there. And the
Mm-hmm.
Flash and Cyborg, and oh
Yeah.
my god, I can't believe we're not going to get that Batman movie now. I cannot believe
Yeah.
that we're going to miss out on that. But it really shows that perhaps Warner Brothers could have trusted him to maintain this universe.
A little bit
Maybe.
more.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'll go with my initial thoughts, and I liked it as well. Of course, you and I had the quick conversation beforehand,
Hmm.
which you let me know, like I think you're gonna like it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know, because for those who may not know, I am very much on the hate train for Batman versus Superman. I did not have a good time watching that movie at all. So for me, I thought is almost a total 180. Like I definitely enjoyed myself. And like you're saying, it established character arcs really well. I thought, yeah, and we'll probably get into it. There's definitely criticisms and things that I still have for it. I've seen some people, acclaim like it's a masterpiece and it's now the greatest comic book movie ever made, and I would not take it that far. But it's definitely it's leagues better than the theatrical cut, and I think better than Batman vs Superman as well. Um,
I,
and
I
it's
also I also think it's better than Man of Steel.
I would say it is as well. And so far, Man of Steel, and I love Man of Steel. I recognize all of its faults, but I still love it. But yeah, I think this is the best Zack Snyder directed DCEU film, like
Hmm.
by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was definitely surprised in that regard because I wasn't expecting to hate it necessarily, but I was definitely expecting it to suffer from some of the things that I thought like Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel somewhat did. I thought it was 4 hours sounded like a daunting task, especially when I thought one of the main reasons Batman vs Superman didn't work for me was the length. I thought it was a little too long.
Yeah.
So, but it does speak to him as a filmmaker to his credit, like for him to be able to pull this thing together the way he did.
Hmm. Did you watch it in one sitting?
I did.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. And you know what? I couldn't for two reasons.
Mm.
One, shortly after starting the film, when I got the screener, my internet started acting up, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh.
So maybe
Hmm.
I was thinking, okay, if the internet can't come back, I'll just probably go to like my parents' house or something and watch it there.
Yeah.
But then my mother called probably right around the time, like right before the Flash would have had his big scene with Iris West, and she
Hmm.
was like, "Hey, are you free right now?" And I was like, "Well, that depends." And she said, "Well, do you want to get the COVID vaccination?" And I was like, "Yeah, I should probably, I should
I
probably
should probably
take
do
care of
that.
that."
Mm.
So I went and did that, and then came back
Okay.
and finished the rest of it. So I did
Gotcha.
intend to just knock it out in one sitting.
Hmm.
But but to Zack Snyder's credit, when they announced initially that they were going to do this, it was up in the air about whether or not it would be one long film or if they would actually break it into a miniseries. And
Yeah.
I thought, just do the miniseries. If this is a
Yeah.
play for HBO Max,
Hmm.
maximize the fan
Yeah.
anticipation that you
Yep.
can get out of this. Um, but when they announced they were going to do it all together and that it would be
Hmm.
rated R, I was like, okay,
Yeah. Yep.
so we didn't learn from Batman
Anything?
versus Superman, like.
Hmm.
But I will say this: the fact that the film is broken up into parts, like marked title card parts, I'll say this, man, that thing is much better paced than. I mean, I cannot remember the last time that a Zack Snyder film seemed to have such a well paced push behind it. I mean, you
Hmm.
know, I loved his remake of Dawn of the Dead. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed 300. And there are bits and pieces of Watchmen that I can sort of get into, but
Hmm.
pacing has never really been a strong suit of his.
Yeah. Hmm.
So for this film to really work, I mean, I can't say that I will always commit to sitting down for 4 hours, but
Yeah.
the fact that it has those parts and that those are like really well placed times in the film where it's like, okay, if you need to step away, this would be a good time to do it. I thought
Hmm.
that was very impressive.
Yeah. So, and the thing I want to tackle now is probably two because we did kind of set up the like I said that structurally they're both the same, but
Mm-hmm.
don't make any mistake, they are two different movies. And two of what I think are the most egregious changes are,
Oh, I think I
um,
know. I think I know.
and this is again spoilers. Like I said, this is going to be a spoiler conversation. So the number one, the character development for Cyborg, he is definitely the heart and soul of this movie, and you would have no idea that that's the case based on Justice League, like how integral that. I mean, they do play that part that he's integral to what happens because of getting his abilities and stuff from one of the mother boxes. So
Mm-hmm.
like that's still there, but still just his I mean it's his origin story,
Yeah.
right? Like this is
Yeah.
they have the little quick time video set up in Batman vs Superman, but this is the actual nitty gritty of finding out how Victor Stone came to be Cyborg,
Yeah.
and and that character development is ripped out of the 2017 version of the movie. Like virtually almost all of it is gone. And then the second thing is Flash's role of what he does in the climax, because in Justice League, his role in the climax is basically a punchline. Like it's one
Mhm.
big joke. Like he does the saves the little
Oh,
family
the
and does
Russian
the
family.
Dostoevsky, like he does that, and that's his big thing, and it's also played for laughs because like he spent all this time saving this one family, and then you show Superman like
The
moving a whole
building.
building full of people, so it's played as like one big joke, and in this, he's essentially, I mean, along with Cyborg, he's essentially the reason why they win, like how
Yeah.
they beat Steppenwolf,
Yeah.
and he goes and turns back time, which is something that in superhero movies it is becoming kind of increasingly common. It
Yeah.
seems like, um, but I thought that was such a good nod to. It's almost a callback to like Superman the movie, the original. Like he
Yeah.
breaks a rule that he's not supposed to break and turns back time. And I just, for the life of me, okay, if you want to cut the movie down and you want to cut out some character development for Cyborg, it's not a good idea, but okay, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Just from a cinematic standpoint, like what looks good on the screen, like, and just from a visual experience, I don't know how you change what Flash does. Like I just don't. Like it makes for a better movie moment, like a
Yeah.
blockbuster movie moment. Like it's like, okay, would you rather do this or turn back time? You would pick turn back time like every time.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about this with a few people who have seen the Snyder cut, who liked it, but they don't follow filmmakers like we do.
Hmm.
And something I was saying is the most perplexing thing in all of this. Joss Whedon is, no offense to Zack Snyder, but Joss Whedon is a much better writer. I mean, obviously we're working with a very different sort of sample size with what Zack Snyder
Hmm.
has written, but Joss Whedon is a better screenwriter than Zack Snyder. I mean,
Hmm.
he really has a gift of like, I'm gonna put people together in a room and I'm gonna make it work. So to me, it's so perplexing that someone as accomplished as Joss Whedon is as a writer would make those changes. Like,
Yeah.
and especially when you consider that Joss Whedon has written comics before. I mean, we just finished WandaVision, and everyone thinks that it's going to set up the X-Men. So I've got people calling me like, hey, I've never read an X-Men comic. Where do I
Hmm.
start? I'm like,
Yeah.
you should start with what Joss Whedon wrote. You should
Hmm.
start there. So someone who's clearly built for writing for the screen, he knows this source material, and it's
Hmm.
like, these are the choices you made.
Yeah. Like it's definitely perplexing, and there are some other changes in there that are they may seem like cosmetic changes to other people, but it's again because like it's structurally a lot of the same stuff. But there are scenes that are they're the same in both cuts, and it's just worse in the
Yeah,
2017 version.
yeah,
Like like the Wonder Woman scene where she saves the kids at the museum. That scene is in the 2017 version,
yeah,
and it's worse. Like it just is worse. It doesn't. It They took out some of the key elements that make it more exciting, and you decide to cut the moment at the end where the little girl
mm-hmm,
tells Wonder Woman like she wants to be like her or whatever, and she's like, yeah, like you can be whatever you want to be. Like as a superhero moment, how do you take that out? Like that's
yeah, and I mean, and I have my criticisms of the way that Zack Snyder played that scene, I was like, does Wonder Woman need to be killing these guys? I mean, does she need to
Well,
do
yeah,
that?
because she definitely kills those guys. It's
Yeah.
not ambiguous at all. But
Yeah. But even then it's like it's so weird. I mean, one of the things that Joss Whedon did so well with that first Avengers movie, and I mean, and he kind of repeated it in Age of Ultron, is that he really knew how to blend superhero action with superhero actions, right? Like Captain America saving those people in the first Avengers movie really complements when he is sort of juxtaposed with Thor and Iron Man fighting the Chitauri. It's like wow, this is they're fighting the bad guys, but they're actually saving people. Cool.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I don't want to get too controversial. I think the Russos sorely missed that, but that's neither here nor there. So it's weird to think that Joss Whedon would see that scene that mixes both of those things and be like, oh yeah, we'll just cut that part.
Cut that part. Yeah. Like, and it's weird. And there's they change. I don't know if you noticed, they changed the line with when Superman and Lois are finally reunited, and she's like, "You spoke," and he's like, "Did I not before?" And that line in the Joss Whedon cut has changed to "You smell good," and he's like, "Did I not before?" And I'm like, that's just, it's a worse line. Like, him not speaking makes perfect sense in that moment because he just almost annihilated the Justice League, and you're not sure, like, does he know who he is? Does he know where he is? So him not speaking until that moment makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, changing that line to "you do you smell good?" Like, it's just one of those things. Like, why did you do that?
Yeah, and then there's the weird color grading that they did in the final battle. I mean,
yeah,
I am, I mean, listen, if I'm Warner Brothers, I probably never ask Zack Snyder to make another DC movie again. I think,
yeah, I think
his vision for what these characters can do is probably not quite in line with where with where Warner Brothers wants that franchise to go. But at the same time, I mean, they had to know, right? They had to have seen where he wanted to go, at least with this first movie, and go, okay, this is salvageable because it's already not bad.
Yeah, like it's
already a movie that can work.
And so
yeah, I mean, I am perplexed at some. I mean, I knew how different this was going to be in the opening of the movie. I mean,
oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, we were talking about. So for those who don't know, the opening in the 2017 movie is this really truncated. First of all, the cold open with Superman and his mouth being weird, on the like cell phone footage, was just, I get what they were going for, but it's also like it's the first indication that you have that, like, oh, like like there's something wrong with Henry Cavill's mouth. Like, what's going on with that? And then they basically, like I said, they truncate the explanation of Batman wanting to really bring this team together and finding out what's going on with the mother boxes, as he's like, what was it? He's like hunting a crook down on a roof, and then a parademon comes.
Yeah, he's using the criminal as bait to find the parademon.
Yeah, and then he kills the parademon, and like the parademon, like when he dies, like what he leaves behind is like this imprint of the three boxes. And he just figures like, oh, that's what this is all about. I don't know how you jump to that conclusion. I understand he's Batman and he's a great detective, but I don't understand how that's the conclusion that they got. So yeah. Swapping that out for the extended opening that Zack Snyder had, with the end of it following on right after the end of Batman vs Superman, where Superman's death is like what wakes the mother boxes up.
And Lex Luthor knowing about Steppenwolf. Like
Yeah.
like that was cut out of the theatrical version of BVS. So
Yeah.
for them to leave it in the opening of Justice League is like, okay, yeah, that tracks.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, because that scene, yeah, it was just in the Ultimate Edition, right? I
Yeah.
believe. Yep. So, and I'm like, I thought, that was a better way to handle that. Um, because yeah, but it's one of those things that where you cut so much out of, the other version, you have to think of these kind of slapdash ways to get character X, where you want them to be, and
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's one of those head scratching things.
Yeah. I mean, and I've I guess what makes this all the more interesting is that, if you told Zack Snyder that he had to cut the movie down for runtime, that's one
Mm.
thing. But like
Yeah.
having that many changes in a single film, I mean, who, and I feel terrible for, all the actors because they
Yeah.
knew everything we heard coming out of everything we heard sort of after the fact of people who were on set, whether it
Hmm.
was the actors, whether it was people who worked on the production crew in London. I mean,
Hmm.
Kevin Smith tells that story about going to London to film Star Wars Episode 9. And a lot of the guys on that set also worked on Justice League. And so he's hearing
Hmm.
about what the plans originally were. And he's like, well, wait a
Yeah.
minute. That sounds so much better. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
and poor Ray Fisher, man. I mean,
Yeah, I really feel bad for him. Because you go from being, a linchpin for this potential like blockbuster movie,
and
and then
having
it's
your own
like,
film.
yeah, and that transition into a solo film to it's like now, they came back, they did the reshoots. You basically go from we're releasing the movie, your role is drastically reduced. And there's not going to be a solo movie anymore, at least from what's been initially reported. Like it's a pretty raw deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, listen, I think most people who were Justice League fans going into that movie in 2017, I think most of us could acknowledge that, okay, Cyborg is in this iteration of the Justice League, but most people who are fans of that character do not associate him with being a part of the Justice League. And
Yeah.
that's whatever.
Hmm.
But, if this works, then a Cyborg standalone film might not be half bad. And,
Yeah.
it's especially worse now because it's like by the end of the Snyder cut, you are so ready to go follow Cyborg into whatever he's about to do next. Like,
Hmm.
it's a shame. And
It
especially
is.
when you consider that the Aquaman movie came out a year later and was
Yeah.
a huge hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely it's definitely a shame, and going back to the part where I was saying with his character development being cut, he has one of the best hero moments in the movie
Yeah.
that gets just dumped,
Yeah.
and it's the part where he's learning about his abilities and how he
Yes.
can interact with technology, and he sees a woman that's struggling. She's like a struggling mother, and
Mm-hmm.
he puts money in her account. And real world tax implications and everything aside, um, it's it's a great superhero moment to
Yeah.
just, what I mean. Like he finds out his abilities, and right in that moment, he decides like, okay, I'm going to use it to help somebody. Like that's the first thing I'm going to do is use this to help somebody.
Yeah.
And they cut it, and
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. I will say, as far as I know, a lot of people are not really on the Joss Whedon train these days, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious to hear how much of this falls on like John Berg and Jeff Johns, who were the heads of DC Films at the time.
Yeah, yeah. So and I agree with that as well. It definitely seems like a scenario where there are a lot of different cooks in that kitchen.
Yeah.
Because for those who also don't know, yeah, like you're saying, they're the heads at the time, and this was one of those kind of infamous movies where producers were heavily involved. Not to say that that's always a bad thing, because there's definitely um, you know movies that have kind of heavy producer influence and they turn out well, but
Yeah.
this is kind of one of those ones where it seems like there's a lot of things that the studio wanted to do and the producers wanted to do versus what the director wanted to do versus even what the actors wanted to do, right? Like
Hmm.
Ray Fisher saying that he tried to give Joss some notes and Joss is like, I don't even take notes from Robert Downey Jr. So it definitely seemed like there were a lot of different ingredients being mixed in the same pot,
Yeah.
and it didn't come out as well as one would have hoped.
No. And that's unfortunate. I mean, and I mean, I don't know about you, but until I got that mess, until my friend told me, hey, they're gonna announce a Snyder cut. Be on the live stream at this time and you'll get to watch it play out in real time.
Mm.
Until that happened, I never thought the Snyder cut would happen
Oh
because
yeah,
this film lost money at the box office. And
yeah.
it's not like Blade Runner, where, Blade Runner was not some massive film that then
Mm.
lost money. It was just a film that didn't find its audience.
Yeah, and then
Um,
it also had a huge cult following and kind of
yeah,
cultural reappraisal after the fact.
yeah.
Like there's nobody that went back to that version of Justice League like, oh, the critics actually got it wrong. Like,
Yeah,
no,
right.
not really.
So I never thought there would be a way that they would do this because I thought they lost money on it before.
Hmm.
Zack Snyder has clearly, left Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
He will
Hmm.
probably never. I mean, and I'm hearing that from. I have that on good authority that he will probably never make another movie for Warner Brothers
For Warner
ever.
Brothers. Yeah.
Um, but like, okay, Zack Snyder's not there. DC has moved on. Aquaman was a huge hit. Shazam
Hmm.
was a hit. The Joker was a hit.
Yeah.
Um, James Gunn is over there now. They have a new
Hmm.
president of DC Films. Like,
Yeah.
as much as curious as I am about what this would have looked like, there's no way this can actually happen. But you never know because not only do
Yeah.
we have a Snyder cut, and not only is it entertaining and good, Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro. So anything can happen.
Yeah, and that's funny because when I did hear about that, I was actually excited, which is weird because I did not care for him in that movie. I didn't care for that movie, period, actually. But just knowing that it's possibly teasing the fact that they're gonna explore like multiverse elements and things
Yeah.
like that's exciting. But you're right. I was definitely on the train of thought of thinking the Snyder Cut, like that's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Like people, doing the hashtag and like you said, they've been going strong with it for a long time now. I thought it was just kind of one of those things where I felt like even if we got it, I didn't think it was gonna be like a completed film.
Yeah.
Like I thought there might be sometime, in the future, like maybe they do, HBO Max has like a special or something that
Yeah.
they put out, and it would be whatever Zach had already shot, and then maybe you get storyboards of the rest of the stuff,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean, kind of behind the scenes with them talking about, well, we wanted to do this and this and that. Like I never thought it would actually be a completed feature length film.
Yeah. And according to Snyder, that was actually the first idea that they pitched to him.
Mm.
Was that they wanted to sort of just take the raw assembly cut that he had and sort of
Hmm.
mix it with storyboards to, tell the story, but just don't finish the movie. And Snyder was like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I
And good
mean, if
on him.
you're
I mean,
him,
listen,
there's no point.
yeah, I mean, and good on him. I mean, listen,
Mm.
for all of the issues that I think people have with some of Snyder's films, what he means for genre films, what he means for like how to work in a studio system. I mean, listen, this man has paid dues.
Yeah.
And I haven't liked everything that he's done, but listen,
Mhm.
you know, the man the man deserves, if you're gonna hire the man back in any capacity, the man
Mhm.
deserves to be able to actually work.
Yeah. I was gonna say that, and it's definitely something to see. Excuse me, how passionate that he is about it. Like you said, like it's definitely apparent like that he's a fan just as much as other fans are.
Yeah.
So you can criticize some of the creative decisions. I probably still will with other things I see from him, but he is somebody that enjoys like what he's doing. There's a passion behind what he's doing. So if for nothing else, even if this movie turned out to be an actual absolute dumpster fire, I was happy that he got to at least finish, what he wanted to do. Because I
Yeah.
feel like any filmmaker, any type of creative, you deserve to have that, like to
Mm-hmm.
tell a story that you want to tell.
Oh yeah.
Um, so with that, I will say, yeah, one of the things that I did um, kind of dislike about it, I do think it's too long. Um, and there's also something to be said about the fact that even if he stayed on and completed the project, this is still most likely not the movie we would have gotten. Um,
Correct.
yeah, so because
Correct.
they would have made him cut it down. So there,
Yeah.
if back in 2017, if things developed as they probably should have, there wouldn't have been a 4-hour Justice League coming to theaters. Like they
Yeah.
just, as a studio, you don't do that.
And
But
just for anyone watching, I mean, something that a lot of people may not know is the reason why you don't see a lot of films exceed a certain length, often is because when movie theaters need to place screenings for films,
mhm,
if those films exceed a certain length, that limits the amount of screenings that a film can have in a given day. And
mhm,
if you're a studio executive, that basically translates to less people are
less
probably
money.
going to show up to
Hmm.
see your movie, which means less money.
Yep,
Now, of
which is
course,
why.
you
Oh, go
have
ahead.
your Lord of the Rings, you have
Hmm.
your Avengers Endgame. But again, Lord of the Rings was already a hit, and
Hmm.
Avengers Endgame was in such high demand that movie theaters were literally blocking out every screening they could. They were
Hmm.
extending hours of operation
Hours and yeah,
so
yeah.
that people
There's
could go see Avengers Endgame.
Yep, I remember I myself was interested. I didn't do it, but there was one theater that was showing it up till like 3 in the morning, and I thought it would be cool to just go. I'm like, I can go right after get breakfast or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, but you are 100% right. That's why a lot of studios don't do that. That's why your average movie is about 2 hours long.
And that's
Because
also why Batman v Superman feels that way, because it
yeah,
was originally a 3 hour film that they
mhm,
just cut little bits out.
cut pieces out of it. So yeah, but I do think it is a little overlong.
Mhm.
So I think the epilogue stuff I was all right without that. Like I didn't need it.
Yeah, I think that if let's be very clear on this. No one expects for them to continue the
Mhm.
Snyder story for DC. No one
Yeah,
expects that. Not even Zack Snyder.
yeah.
So to have that epilogue, and more specifically the nightmare sequence of it, is
Mhm.
just one. I don't know if I need to hear Batman threatening to kill people. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just don't need it. But
yeah,
also, why tease something that no one is even going to be trying to make
yeah.
happen?
Hmm. So yeah, that's definitely one of the most unnecessary parts. I felt like Still didn't dig even a little bit that we got Jared Leto's Joker. I mean, more power to him for doing the stuff he does. I just think his Joker just it doesn't work. It just does not work for me.
You know
The three
what?
times I've seen
I
it.
I was cool with this newer look they were giving him, but I also
Mm-hmm.
think that he overdoes it. I mean, and
Yeah,
what's really tragic about Jared Leto as the Joker is Jared Leto is a fantastic actor.
he is. That's the thing. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. Like, I don't know if it's the direction of the character to just go for it the way he does, but it doesn't entirely work for me.
Yeah.
And then I also could have done without the Martian Manhunter stuff. Um,
I'm a little
kind of, or at least I don't. The scene where he reveals himself as Lois, I definitely didn't need that. I think that kind of undercuts that moment a little bit. The one
yeah,
on one that Martha Kent and Lois has.
I agree.
So I would say if you're gonna do the Martian Manhunter thing, just do it at the end. Like I think that would be better of him saying like, "Hey, like, I think you guys could probably use my help," and da 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 da. Like if they want to do that, I'm game with that. But having that scene in
Yeah.
the middle of the movie and then at the end, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, listen, I know some might be triggered to hear this. I thought they should have pulled a Marvel and just done two mid-credit, post-credit scenes and have the
Mm.
first mid-credit scene be the Lex Luthor scene. So just cut it
Mm.
down and
Yeah,
and by the way, speaking of changes, why on earth did they change that line of dialogue for that one scene?
I have no clue. That is another one of those head scratching things. Like that's it's a much better direction
Yeah.
for that.
And they should have, they should have done at the very end. Bruce Wayne wakes up. We don't see the dream. He just wakes up and he looks out the window. He goes outside and it's Martian Manhunter.
Mm.
As a comic book fan, as a comic book
Mm.
movie fan, that's how you close a film. That's how
Mm.
you close a movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be a good, even though, like you're saying, there's gonna be no follow up, but that would be a good, like cliffhanger to leave off on for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, yeah, like I said, overall, I did enjoy it. I definitely think it was. I also read something that said like 10% of this movie is slow motion, which is hilarious.
Listen,
But
it's Zack Snyder can frame a shot
hmm
like no other.
yeah,
He can frame a still image shot like no other.
hmm
Why on earth is there this much slow motion in one film?
it's a lot to the point that it almost sort of makes it seem mundane when the
Yeah,
Flash starts doing Flash stuff. But it's like that's a perfect way to kind of frame Flash's powers. But
yeah.
it's just like yeah, like if everybody else is doing it, then what's the big idea? So yeah, I thought it was a little too long, a lot of slow motion. There are a couple of scenes that they just go on a little bit too long for me. Namely,
I
that
think I
first
know.
Aquaman one is just it's a lot. Is
Yeah,
just doing a lot. So yeah, I would say there's probably trims and edits and stuff that you could make here and there. I am still, which is probably one of my favorite parts of Justice League. I still like how Superman was portrayed a little bit better in that movie. Just his characterization. It's good in the I mean in the Zack Snyder cut. Like it's good, but I still think he's a little bit more hopeful to me still.
mm-hmm.
Kind of at the end of that, that's part of one of the best things I thought about in that movie. But I mean, other than that, and other little things that I have, here and there, I still think, that he did a good job pulling this off. especially since, like you said, it never seemed like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and it can't be an easy thing to put yourself back in that mode either. Like I don't know if other people, realize that. Like if you were making something, 3 plus going on like 4 years ago,
Hmm.
to put yourself in the same creative space to like kind of pick it back up is not necessarily that easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy for a filmmaker. It's not easy for the actors, who have moved on to different projects and things like that. So for it to come together the way it did, I think it's a testament to him, to the crew, cast, and all of that.
Hmm. Um, it's funny that you were saying, about how things would have to be trimmed down. So, like, I guess this is definitely it needs to be its own section of the video. The
Mm,
villains. I cannot believe how much I enjoy that history segment now,
mm,
where they go into
yeah,
the backstory of Darkseid and the people
yeah,
of Earth coming together.
yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't know if I think Zack Snyder is the next Peter Jackson, but like, it really says a lot that, like, wow, he was really swinging for all the fences
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
pull this off. Like,
yeah.
and it's
Like,
crazy.
yeah,
I mean, Steppenwolf is not a great villain still, but like, there's so
it's
much more
better.
there.
Yeah, it's definitely better, and his motivations are more fleshed out. And
And I think he looks better.
he
I
looks a lot better. That I think that goes without saying. That was probably the worst, along with Superman's mouth. That was probably one of the worst things visually, like effects wise, about the 2017 movie. So
Yeah.
he looks a lot better, a lot more menacing. Um, and at the same time, they give him a slight bit of sympathy, like almost like because you realize like this dude is really just trying to get back on Darkseid's good side. Like he's really
Yeah.
trying to get back in his good graces. So it's not just I'm evil for the sake of it and I want to get these mother boxes. It's like no, like I fell out of favor with my master and I'm trying to do whatever I can to get back in. Um, so yeah, because like that scene where he's talking with Decide and he's just like begging like on his feet, like please just let me talk to him. Like
Yeah.
just put Darkseid on the phone like right
Right.
quick. Like this just let me holler at him for a minute. Like that's it's a good villain moment. And like you
Yeah.
said, I mean it's still not he's not gonna be anybody's top tier comic book villain. Like I don't think but it's definitely it has more layers to it than it did in the 2017 version.
Yeah. I can't and I mean, I can't believe how good Darkseid looks in this movie. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, if there's, I said this on social media, the only thing more metal than this movie is the song Berserker, and Darkseid sort of is the culmination of it. I'm like,
yeah,
this is really happening. Like, he really
yeah,
looks like the final boss.
yeah. At the
The
like
planet's in flames. He's got like the deepest voice ever.
yeah,
Steppenwolf is speaking to him through like a rock font. Like listen,
yeah,
if nothing else, Zack Snyder went full metal. And I'm
yeah,
okay with that.
yeah, yeah. Dark Side was good in this, both versions, because we get the younger, like U-Axis Dark
Mm-hmm.
Side, and then Dark Side, like that we know with
Yeah.
the Omega beams and all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
Um,
Um, so
it's
yeah,
wild, man. That final battle is so much better. It's so much better.
it and again, and it's just I don't know how you change what Flash does. I don't know how you change the interaction that Cyborg has with the actual mother boxes, where it's like where the mother boxes are like, let us be together, like we can make it the way it was, like it can be all good, and showing him the version of himself that he, kind of wishes he still was and still had his family. And
Yeah,
for him in that moment to be I'm not broken and I'm not alone, and he, makes that decision to tear his family apart in that moment and separate the boxes. Like, why would you not? Why would you not keep that? Like,
yeah,
why? And that's not even a part that would have taken you that much longer to leave in there. Like,
yeah.
it's just like, even Silas's, his dad, his sacrifice is better. Um, I was about to say that what happens in the 2017 version. So it's yeah. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, we could. I was gonna say we'll probably kind of wrap it up because I know you probably got stuff to do. We could probably talk about this all day, but yeah, there's almost, and I'm not gonna be a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but there almost seems to be, at least at some level, conscious decisions to tank this movie. Like, it almost seems like at some
I'm
point.
I'm so glad that I have the microphone, because a friend of mine shared a very interesting conspiracy with me today about this
Mm,
subject.
mm,
He believes, and for the people of YouTube, I don't believe this, but I have to share it.
mm,
He believes that when Marvel found out that Joss Whedon was going to finish the film, that they
mm,
called him up and said, "Why don't we help you with some of those decisions?"
mm, mm.
Yeah, he's fully
That's funny.
convinced that Joss was given a little extra coin
To
to sabotage the film.
make things worse. I mean, and like you said, that definitely seems like the a Uber conspiracy theory. And I mean, but that is funny. But I mean, but it does seem like, not, and I'm not saying him. I'm not saying necessarily any producer's name or anything like that, but there definitely seems, at least maybe even on an unconscious level, like maybe it was to spite Zack or something like that, because his name is still attached as a director on the original. That's another thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't credit him and Joss, or Joss. It credits Zack Snyder still as the director. So
yeah,
there almost seems to be like at least a surface level amount of consistent decisions, like, because it's not just one thing, it's
yeah,
many things to make the movie worse, like, and
yeah,
then they were just like, yep, now just put it out. So there's stuff that's kind of baffling at sometimes, like how much worse what we got originally was than what's in this movie.
yeah. And I mean, listen, I don't know if Justice League was destined to hit the $1 billion mark at that point,
Mm,
but I will say, when you consider how long some of the Lord of the Rings movies were, when you
mm,
consider the fact that it was originally going to come out just a few months before the wave of Black Panther, the
mm.
fact that I'm sorry, the fact that Zack Snyder couldn't use John Stewart. So originally, Martian Manhunter, that was going to be an introduction for John Stewart.
Yeah,
The
I heard
fact
that,
that
which is
Iris,
why. Oh, go. I was just gonna say, which is why, because I think they said they filmed that with just Ben and the stand-in. So,
yeah,
which is why his dialogue, if you really look at it, it could have been for anybody, like,
yeah,
that was standing in front of him.
yeah.
Hmm.
If you look at the fact that Iris West got cut out, the fact that Cyborg's whole backstory got cut out, the fact that
Hmm.
Ryan Choi got cut out of the movie,
Yeah, all people of color. That's
yeah,
another thing. Like,
it's
we
just
don't.
like,
Mhm.
how it's like, how do you not read the writing on the wall? Like, and
Yeah,
now in post Black Panther Hollywood, the idea of undercutting a character of color in your movie is like, why would you do
why
that?
would you do that? Yeah, why would you do that? So yeah, that's definitely another part of it. And gonna try to wrap up here. I will say this, at least, because some people really may not understand how significant this is. It's historic. Like, the
Yeah,
fact that this movie happened, I feel pretty confident in saying you probably will never again see a studio shell out what we're talking about, a combined almost
370
$400 million
Yeah, almost 400
between
million.
what was spent on the theatrical cut and the reshoots and this one, between two movies, and for it to be, you have a theatrical 2 hour cut, the other one's 4 hours. You have all this different stuff that was going on behind set. I don't think we'll ever see something like this again.
No, no. Because even not like, okay, I'll be completely honest. I got to the end of the Snyder cut, and part of me, a small part, I was ready for the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. I was ready.
Oh
I was
man.
like, you know what? Just hand it over.
Oh
Come
man.
on, come on now. I saw End of
That
Watch. I saw Fury. I know he can do
Yeah,
better.
like we can do better than this. Did you see
But
Bright though? So maybe not.
I did not see Bright.
Oh, okay. Well, don't go out of your way to watch it. If
Uh,
you run into it at some point, yeah, but yeah,
but it's just like it's crazy. I mean, this film had every reason to never come out this way.
yeah.
They had a scapegoat in Zack Snyder. The
Hmm.
film lost money at the box office. People didn't
Hmm.
even like the version they got in the theaters.
Yeah,
And the shared universe that it's a part of has
it's already
wandered off
reset.
in such a different
Yeah.
direction. And I think
Hmm.
and personally, I think it's for the better. That's just me.
I would agree.
But I mean, like, there was no reason. But
Yeah.
it really speaks to the fact that in this game, in this business, and especially in a year where the pandemic had people making wild choices,
Yes.
anything could happen.
Anything
Now,
else?
I don't. We're not going to see the Ayer cut. Warner Brothers has explicitly said that.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to see the Lord and Miller cut of Solo, a Star Wars film,
Oh man. Yeah.
and we're probably not going to see the Josh Trank cut of Fantastic Four. It's probably not going to happen.
That's another one. Those don't even sound appealing to me. Like the Suicide Squad and the Fan Four Stick. I'm like, y'all can keep those.
But I guess
But
maybe as we wrap this up,
mm,
I mean, listen, DC is in they are in an interesting place now because
mm,
people seem to. I mean, if you check Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, this is almost a full redemption for Zack Snyder.
yeah, yeah,
The last I saw, it was at like 74, 75%.
75%. Yep.
Um, so we don't think they'll continue there, but what do you think happens with DC now? I mean, we're getting Black Adam. That's going to introduce the JSA. We're getting Shazam 2. Helen Mirren signed on for that.
I just saw that. Yep, I just saw that she's going to be the villain in that.
Zatanna is getting a movie.
Yep.
Blue Beetle is going to start shooting, I think, at the end of this year.
Yep, that'll be.
Aquaman
So
2
it's interesting. Where we may be getting Black Superman soon at some point.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen.
So,
at this point, I mean, I guess the one thing I'll say is anything could happen with DC, and that alone excites me.
yeah. I was gonna say anything can definitely happen, and we are. I mean, and not to belabor that point, but like you're saying, like it's anything's possible, and we're in an age now where I never thought we would be seeing blockbuster movies make their debut on streaming like the same day that they're going to be out in theaters.
Yeah.
Marvel just announced they're going to be doing that with Black Widow, and HBO Max has been doing it all year. So it's, I mean, you never know. Like like you're saying, it does seem like Zack is done at Warner Brothers for now, but you never know what might happen. The king is always going to be the money. So if they think it's a potential opportunity to bring in some money and get some more eyes on the brand, do whatever they need to do, they're gonna do it. But yeah, it'll be interesting just to see kind of the direction that they take things. They do have a slate, like you said, of these movies that they're already working on. So it's yeah, this is interesting. Like to just think about this movie retroactively, like how it's essentially out of canon now for what they're doing,
Yeah,
and but like I said, as just a passion project for Zack Snyder, for him to get like you said almost that vindication here for him, I imagine that has to feel great. You know, basically
yeah,
just being like I told you so. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure it did what Warner Brothers and for HBO what they wanted to drive up the subscriptions and get people watching it and talking about it. So it's interesting. It's
yeah.
like I said, it's quite unique, which is the reason I wanted to get on and talk about it anyway. And it's exciting that it did happen, and I think it also speaks to the grassroots, what I mean, movement that started it in the first place. Like
Listen,
we've seen
this
angry
is
people on the internet all the time, and usually what they want doesn't get accomplished, and this
this is
time
a
it did.
win. The listen, fans, nerds,
Hmm.
those of us who are always mad about what the execs are doing. This is a win. This is a win for
Yeah.
us.
Hmm. So yeah, they definitely showed up and showed out. So any closing thoughts? Anything?
Yes, I do have closing thoughts. The first thing that I want to say, congratulations to Zack and Deborah Snyder. I know that this was not an easy road, but I for one am glad that we got to see this through. The
Hmm.
second thing that I want to say, this relates to the future of the DC movies. Personally, I think they should hand the keys to James Gunn, let him go crazy. I have no idea if that means the movies will be family friendly, but
Hmm.
I'm excited. I would listen. I'm gonna be there when the Suicide Squad opens up. So,
Yeah.
and the third thing that I would like to say, thank you so much for inviting me on,
Mm.
Mr. Thomas. I greatly appreciate that. You know, it's always great to talk movies with you. And for those of you out there who would like to follow my musings about anything movie related, you can find me on Twitter at Eric D. Huffman, TWO, or on Instagram at Eric D. Huffman.
Fantastic. And I would say closing thoughts for myself. It's yeah, like I said, it's just I think on a personal level, that's the thing I've enjoyed the most about this is seeing Zach get to do what he wanted to do, and the fact that the movie was pretty good didn't make me angry like Batman vs Superman did is all the better. It's I mean it's a great time to just be a comic book fan, be a superhero fan. We got this that another thing that may get lost in this. This premiered on basically the same weekend that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier did. So I had fun watching that. We are getting an Invincible show pretty soon. There's Black Widow and stuff is coming later this year. So it's a good time to be a comic book fan. A lot of stuff to talk about. In the future. WandaVision, like you said, just people are still talking about that, and it just
Loved
wrapped
it.
up. So I
Loved it.
loved it as well. So yeah, I mean, this is if you are a comic book fan, if you are a nerd, if you are somebody that loves superhero content, it's a great time. If you're thinking about being a fan, there's a lot of different things to latch on to. I feel like,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of the kind of movies and TV shows and things that are coming out make it easy, like so you don't feel overwhelmed about where should I start or what to do.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, so it's just it's a good time, and like I said, this was kind of a watershed moment amongst that, and I'm happy that we did have a lot of things to discuss on it, and I'm happy that you joined me to do so.
Always, man.
So yeah. All right. And again, guys, if you would like, share, subscribe, that would be great. And until next time, yeah, hopefully I can have you back on to discuss some other stuff another
Oh
time
yeah.
if the schedule allows. So yeah, I'll definitely be in touch, man.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate it.
Peace.
All right. Take care.